It's kind of a joke. Can we stop calling it recruiting, please?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're going to watch this show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, the show is free. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Show your appreciation. You mean a lot to the show. If you're watching YouTube, do me a favor. Become a subscriber. It's quick. It's easy. It's free. Click the red subscribe button. Thumbs up. Smash it. Don't forget to hit that bell notification button. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on, and you're going to get started today. Me, personally, I'm changing the definition of college football recruiting. From now on, the coaches, they're not recruiting. They're negotiating. They're negotiators. That's who they are. That's what they're doing. The job description entails you're going to build a relationship, still part of recruiting, sort of, just to find out how much you're going to need to bid at the very end for a high school teenager when it's time for them to sign their name on that letter of intent. That's what it's come down to. Coaching staffs, they don't necessarily recruit anymore. They're the middleman. They're the middleman for the people behind the scenes, writing the cost of living expense bonus checks. That's what college football is now. With that said, I want to welcome the first of what will be many shows recapping the early signing period. Yes, early signing day started today. Well, you're watching this episode on Thursday. Early signing period started on Wednesday. So I'm sorry for the cynical look at USC's newest class of pledges, because actually I am really looking forward to watching this group of Trojans. Seriously, because they signed and they showed some character. This is what Lincoln Riley said. I'm excited about the class. High school recruiting, as we all know, has continued to change and evolve over the last several years. Our understanding of being at USC now for a couple of years and what we know it's going to take to continue to elevate our program has certainly evolved as well. One thing, if I were to give one comment maybe about this class, or I were to sum it up in one way, the commitment level of these guys to understand the opportunity that we have here at a place like USC, the opportunity to help bring this program back to where we all want it to be, is shared across the class. I mean, you could really feel that with all the guys, really throughout the process. End quote. A lot of that's coach speak. I'd be curious about the evolvement comment a little bit more. Right? He's been here at USC now, going to his third year. They've evolved. Maybe if I get a chance, I'm going to ask him to elaborate on that. But here are the guys that are going to be showing up at USC in 2024. The first letter of intent that came out that showed up inside Heritage Hall, it was at 4:09 in the morning, West Coast time. It was from Elijah Newby, the outside linebacker, rush edge, Chester Academy. You then got the next one. A few minutes later was from Desmond Stevens II, the linebacker out of Clarkston, Michigan. 4:23 a.m., Clearwater, Florida Academy International, interior offensive lineman, Jason Zandamela. This is a big dude. He is one of the prize jewels in this class, is what I'm going to say. A few minutes after that, Jarvis Boatwright Jr., safety. Shortly after that, Cameron Fountain, 4-star edge, who probably is going to look more like a defensive lineman by the time he arrives. He already looks like it now. You have the late flip from Kentucky, Lorenzo Cowan, another defensive edge. You have Makai Saina, the offensive lineman out of Texas. You have Jade Abasiri, the defensive lineman from Minnesota. Then you got Brian Jackson, the running back from Texas. And then another Texas guy, Braylon Conley, safety. Carlon Jones, late addition to the class. We talked about him just the other day on the show. Defensive lineman out of Texas. USC beat out Ohio State. West Coast time now when people are actually awake. 6:30 a.m. Cherry Creek, offensive lineman, Hayden Trader. His LOI showed up inside Heritage Hall. Joey Olson, also from the West Coast, tight end. He showed up. 7:20 a.m. Guy who kind of just came in late into the class. Palo Alto, California, 3-star offensive lineman. I mentioned his name recently. Kalolo Ta'aga, big frame, 6'7". Josh Henson really likes this developmental guy. He's only been playing football for a year, so you're not going to see him playing right away, but this is the type of guy you want to have in your program for 2 or 3 years. Then you got big-time safety, Marquise Gallegos. Next in was wide receiver, Sierra Canyon, Xavier Jordan. Justin Tauanu, offensive lineman from Huntington Beach. Marcellus Williams, little brother to Max Williams. And then late in the afternoon, Walter Matthews, the big tight end from Georgia. The last one of the day that came in, high school recruit, Isaiah Rubin, cornerback from Los Alamitos. Apparently there was some paperwork snafu that they were clearing up, but it finally happened later in the afternoon. His LOI showed up inside Heritage Hall. You might be noticing a name missing from that list. Yep, wide receiver, Ryan Pelham. I'm going to get into that subject more in the next segment, but he flipped at the last minute, literally. I'm going to put it nicely right now. He had communication issues. You know by now that USC needs, again, I'm going to talk about that in the next segment, but before we close out this first segment, about who is committed and coming to USC. You do know that USC needs some big-time help in the depth department at the cornerback spot with Damani Jackson. He hit the bricks. We're not sure what's going on with Sia Wright, what his future is. So the Trojans actually picked up a commitment from former Mississippi State cornerback. His name is DeCarlos Nicholson. Got him out of the transfer portal. He played quarterback in high school. And then his first year at a JC, that's when he flipped to the other side of the ball. Jamil Muhammad, he played quarterback, flipped to the other side of the ball. That turned out pretty well for him. So we're going to see what happens here. The senior defensive back spent 2 years with the Bulldogs after spending 1 year in junior college in 2022. He's coming off his best season that included 42 tackles. Two of those tackles came for a loss, and he had two pass breakups. So we'll see what he brings to the table. He started 7 times last year in 12 games, and his first career start came against LSU, which he had a career-high 10 tackles. So showed up for the big game. And then USC also got their second transfer portal commitment on Wednesday, first day of early signing period. The running back from Mississippi State, Joquavius Woody Marks. From now on, I'm not saying anymore. His name is Woody Marks, just because I want to show some respect and I don't want to butcher it, and I got to practice it. Woody Marks, running back. He picked USC. He picked USC over Washington and Louisville, who USC faces in the Holiday Bowl. He's got 1 year of eligibility, 5'10", 210 pounds. And actually, he's been a fixture in the Bulldogs backfield. He, in 40 games that he's played out there, 3,000 total yards. And he's the first Mississippi State back to, he's the first in Mississippi State history, both in career receptions and receiving yards by a running back. Sorry for butchering that. So, looks like USC got that veteran running back they need for all those freshmen that they have coming. Brian Jackson, Marion Peterson, and Quentin Joyner. There you go. So, those two guys you add in, you have to the transfer list, you have Hank Pepper, the long snapper at Michigan State, Nate Clifton, the big defensive lineman from Vanderbilt, And then you've got the Arnold brothers, Easton Mascarenhas Arnold, the linebacker, and safety Achille. Coach Riley was asked about if there was any under-the-radar guys from this class. He said on offense and defense, he talked about Desmond Stevens, and then I mentioned the name Makai Saina. So he also talked about Kololo Ta'aga. Here's what everyone needs to take away from the first day, at least, of the early signing period, is that Riley's been focused on getting USC bigger, definitely inside the trenches. USC goes to the Big Ten Conference, the big conference starting this upcoming season, 2024. This is what he told the Big Ten Network when he was asked. He feels the best position units in this class were also the ones with the highest need. Offensive line, defensive line, and the secondary. So if you were paying attention, USC shot and they scored big time in this class at those spots. So to be able to get a full class there, across the board was a really, really good thing for USC. He said, you see the size, especially along the front and on both sides that we're bringing in, that really looks to the future of moving the Big Ten Conference. So, again, we can't wait to get these guys in here, get started. He's excited. I'll get there. I'm still trying to get over this whole, I don't know. You'll understand where I'm coming from, where my cynicism is in the next segment. We're almost there. Is this a top 10 class? No. I told you it wasn't going to be. But here's, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care. At this point, top 10 classes, they cost too much to attend, first of all. And too many of the enrollees, they drop out if they don't hear what they want to hear, or if they're not playing before, when they want to play. So again, we'll have this conversation in another episode. This is where I'm at right now. Stay away from the guys who want to be paid out of high school. I know that's what you need if you want the top guys, but they don't stick around even when you do pay them, right? Malachi Nelson, you had a nice NIL package when you came to USC. Before we get out of here for this first segment, here is the out of the guys who are committed, here are the guys who will be early enrollees available in spring camp. Defensive lineman, Jade Abasiri. Safety, Jarvis Boatwright Jr. Defensive end, Lorenzo Cowan. Defensive end, Cameron Fountain. Safety, Marquise Gallegos. Running back, Brian Jackson. Wide receiver, Xavier Jordan. Linebacker, Elijah Newby. Tight end, Joey Olson. Linebacker, Desmond Stevens II. Offensive lineman, Kololo Ta'aga. Offensive lineman, Justin Ta'uanu. Cornerback, Marcellus Williams. And offensive lineman, Jason Zandamela. That's 14 out of the 20 guys who signed. That ain't bad. It's a good ratio. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster, and they're going to do it for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, and that's going to make the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with their local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, you're looking at the rundown here. New definition for recruiting. Let's stop with the charade, okay? I am done with the verbal commitment from the quote, figure quotes, greedy teenagers who have zero idea what a commitment is all about. Zero. As in float you championships. Oregon, who has won a couple of bowl games in their history, they cannot recruit based on accolades and tradition. Look, Oregon understands this. They understand their limitations, and they accept that the only way to get players that USC wants and they want as well, in other words, players with big time potential, is that they're going to have to overpay for them. And yeah, a lot of times it comes back, it comes at the expense of USC. But look, it is what it is right now. They're playing this game their way. Programs like Oregon are playing it another way. It happens every year. It's becoming an annual spring, signing day tradition. Spring. As often as USC is losing to Oregon on the field, it's happening frequently. At least it feels like it's happening just as frequently when it's coming to the recruiting wars, the negotiating wars. But like I said, it at least one recruit per year it happens. Last year it was Josh Connerly. This year it's Ryan Pelham. USC has a commitment or is anticipating one on signing day, and then at the 11 o'clock hour, with about 30 minutes to go before it's time, the Oregon Publishers Clearinghouse, that van pulls up, and one of those big, fat, oversized checks. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And it's funny that it's ironic that they call it the clearinghouse, because the NCAA clearinghouse has to sign off on every single player before they're allowed to play at the university of their choice. But no one will ever admit that that's the case, that that's what's going on. It's kind of just it's happening, but we're not going to say it out loud. Well, I'm going to say it out loud. High school players are getting paid to go to college. Let's pull our heads out of the sand. It's happening. Now, regarding USC and how this affects USC, Ryan Pelham. Well, did you know that his older brother is also no longer his high school coach? His name's Romeo Pelham. He said at signing day that he found out about the wide receivers decision right as they walked into the gym for signing day. He had mentioned that USC head coaches have been calling him all day because Ryan wasn't answering their calls. So Coach Romeo Pelham told Luke Heward the news literally just before Ryan made his announcement. Apparently, the staff had been trying to talk to him. USC staff had been trying to talk to him for a week, and he wasn't mature enough to have that conversation. Look, Lincoln Riley, he can't mention recruits by names. He held his afternoon press conference, but he had some comments, and you knew who he was referring to. Well, let me read this quote. So many of these guys never wavered. He's referring to the guys who committed, signed, and are coming to USC. So many of these guys never blinked, and they understand really what this means. And I think that's really special. And something that we honestly, as time has gone, one and more here in the last few years, we have prioritized it just each year, I think, a little bit more, because I think it matters. Because what happens listen, the guy that wavers on signing day is going to waver when something doesn't go his way here. He's going to waver when he's not the starter as a true freshman coming right here. He's going to waver when somebody on the outside tells him he should look elsewhere. The guys that don't waver and have a passion for being here, they're going to hang in there, and they're through their ups and downs. They're going to develop. And then you're going to look up and down, and they're going to turn into a really good player, and a lot of them much sooner rather than later. I'm quoting Lincoln Riley verbatim, so I apologize for the mule shoe English. Eesh. Look, let me go back to the point that you need to focus on. he's talking about players wavering, because what happens with that is, listen, the guy that wavers on signing day is going to waver when something doesn't go his way here at USC. Is he talking about Ryan Pelham? Is he talking about Malachi Nelson, who just left USC? Doesn't matter. Both of those players fit the characterization. Like I said, you could point that at either player. And if you were able to hear the message through my garbled verbatim quote, you also heard a little bit of Miller Moss in there when he was talking about running away when things don't go your way. Miller Moss said that after practice on Monday. So for me, like I said, no more recruiting. This is all about winning bidding wars. It's not recruiting wars anymore. These are bidding wars. Here's how I'm building my roster from now on. I've been kind of touching on this, so let me get a little bit more in depth. You need to have the best trained eyes and talent evaluators that know how to coach. That's who I want on my staff. Then you're going to go find the guys to play in the trenches. And if they're good enough to develop for a year or two, go get them. You don't need guys to play right away at those positions. I don't need the instant starter who's going to command $500,000, $250,000 first year out of high school. They're not worth it. I'm literally done playing this game bidding on high school recruits. I still want to enjoy the, figure quote, recruiting process, but the way it's evolving, it's not recruiting anymore. It's just a bunch of teenagers with agents saying, yep, what do you got? How much? When am I going to get it? Oh, and if I'm not going to play, you better make sure that check cashes because I'm out of here. I know that I'm simplifying and I sound really cynical. Sorry. Disagree? Let me know in the comment section. I'm not saying players shouldn't get paid, but this is not what NIL was meant to be. It's terrible. Like I said, I'm done bidding on recruits. I don't need the skill players anymore. They're a dime a dozen in Southern California, first of all. My quarterbacks, they're coming from the transfer portal with 2 to 3 years of eligibility left. If I am going to get a quarterback from high school, I'm looking for that Miller Moss type of quarterback, the kind who has talent. Remember, he was a 4-star, but he's got a lot of character as well. The guy who doesn't run away from competition. Those elite 5-star plus guys, they cost way too much, and they like to try new things all the time. Before I get out of this segment, a buddy of mine sent me this text, kind of funny. That USC is always accused of buying players in the past. So where did all of USC's bagmen go? Like, you know what? It's funny, but it's true. How come USC is losing this game? Get a point. Look, Lendale White said that he got $150,000 and an apartment when he was at USC. I think that happened after he became Thunder, Thunder and Lightning. But again, benefit of the doubt. Why is USC poor when it comes to playing this whole NIL game? Where are USC's bad men? Why are the collectives having so much trouble getting going? Is that what Lincoln Riley was referring to when he's talking about evolvement? I don't know. Because if they have a better understanding of it, they're not implementing it. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app, it's easy to use. They've got a bunch of different ways you can bet. You got the point spreads, you got the player prop bets, you got the over-unders, you got a whole bunch more than that. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. It's already here. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Cause and effect. Is it yay or nay? You tell me. The Trojans, they don't have a quarterback commit in their 2024 recruiting class. And they technically don't have one in their 2025 recruiting class. They've got someone committed in 2026, Juju Lewis, the number one quarterback in that class. Ways 2 years away. He might reclassify to 2025. So you've got 5-star Malachi Nelson. He entered the transfer portal. So USC has on their roster as we speak, Miller Moss, Jake Jensen, and a couple of walk-ons. Like I said, Juju Lewis is in 2026. I spoke about Ryan Pelham in the previous segment, the wide receiver who at the last second decided he's not coming to USC. He's going to go to Oregon. After he made his commitment, he was asked, why did you change? Why did you flip? And he was kind of given a leading question of, why. And he was asked if the recent exodus of players from USC had anything to do with his decision. He literally, if you go watch it, it's on social media, you can see it. He literally looked like someone just handed him a lifeline. It was like, yeah, maybe a little bit. It was just a really nervous affirmative affirmation to the question, but I don't know. It just didn't seem right. For me, just like Malachi Nelson's decision to leave USC is short-sighted, I think Ryan's is as well. But the question that was asked of him actually had some merit. I just didn't like the feeding the answer to someone who needs to be ready to answer that question that you had to know was coming, right? You've been committed to USC for a long time, for months. You had your little baby on your lap when you committed, which is Anyways, so you had to know that if you're going to flip, that the next question you're going to be asked afterwards is why. You got to be prepared to answer that question. You shouldn't have somebody kind of, is this why? Yes. So, is USC's quarterback room a mystery right now? Absolutely. Now, maybe if Ryan answered the phone, he'd know what the plan was. Like I said, he had communications issues. He wasn't returning USC's phone calls for a week. This is why I am firmly in the opinion that Ryan's decision changed because of the Benjamins. Nothing else. There's nothing about needing to get away from home and maturing and growing up. I mean, I'm sure that played a little bit, but I don't know. Anyways, we'll see. Lincoln Riley did say that they might take 2 quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Again, you've got Miller Moss, you got Jake Jensen. We're still waiting on the Will Howard commitment. So we'll see what happens. Now, based on everything that's happened on the first day of recruiting, early signing period, how much of the blame lies at Lincoln Riley's feet for gambling on Alex Grinch? Because again, this is about a cause and effect. Lincoln Riley keeping Alex Grinch along for the 2023 season. Look, is it having an effect on this recruiting class, on this bidding class? Even I still have to get into it. Look, I'm not trying to throw shade and at the class that's coming in. The guys who are coming. I'm not knocking them because the guys are coming in. If we're using the star system, there are 4 stars. There are high 3 stars that USC was recruiting against a lot of the same programs at one of these guys, top tier programs. They have the potential to help that 2023 class help get USC to the promised land. 2024 and 2023 was all about size, offensive line, defense, specifically in this class, 2024. But how much did, Riley betting on Grinch cost USC in this class? Whether or not, all the guys USC went after, like a Kingston Viliamuasa, Peyton Woodyard, Aiden Braylon, Jericho Johnson, whether or not those guys turn out to be good players or not, that's not the point. None of those guys, except for Kingston, gave USC the time of day. And yes, others across the country, like an Edric Houston, showed some interest. But, by the time Riley finally pulled that ripcord, saying, Alex, it's not working out. We gotta part ways. It was too late. Look, I'm not the stargazer. If you've been watching these, my everydayers know this, but if you're newer to the show, I don't look at recruiting at how many stars are next to the name. I look at which programs are recruiting a player. In other words, I know when good programs are getting good players. So I go with the coaching evaluations. Wednesday was just the first day of the early signing period. USC should anticipate another defensive commit sooner rather than later. So maybe while you're watching this episode, another one's come along. I'm going to see what's going on with the Will Howard scuttlebutt. I mean, he's supposed to be the quarterback USC is getting out of the transfer portal, right? I guess the question is there enough NIL juice to bring him along for 1 year? There's going to be a lot more to recap from the early signing period. Remember, it's not a signing day. It's a signing period. Started on Wednesday, December 20th. It ends Friday, the 24th, or it goes until the 24th. Excuse me. So, until then, I'm not going to close out just yet. I want to make sure that when you're done watching this episode of Locked on USC, you need to head on over to wersc.com. We've got a subscription special going. They got so much content over there that I cannot fit into 30 minutes plus here. So check it out over there. And I will bring some more info for you here on the next episode of Locked on USC, because we do it every day. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.